Welcome, dear listeners. Today, we're diving into a topic that might be uncomfortable but necessary: understanding when someone doesn't like you, even if they're trying to hide it. It's not always easy to tell when someone has negative feelings towards you, especially when they're good at masking their true emotions. However, there are subtle signs that can reveal the truth, and recognizing them can help you protect your heart and avoid unnecessary pain. In this video, we will explore 10 clear signs that someone doesn't like you but pretends otherwise. Each sign may seem small on its own, but when combined, they create a pattern that can't be ignored. So, let's dive in and uncover these hidden truths. Starting with the first sign, Sign 1. Lack of genuine enthusiasm when they interact with you. One of the clearest signs that someone doesn't like you, but is pretending otherwise, is a noticeable lack of genuine enthusiasm in their interactions with you. When people enjoy your company, their energy reflects it. You can feel the warmth in their smiles, the brightness in their eyes, and the way they engage with you wholeheartedly. Their body language is open, their words flow easily, and they seem genuinely interested in what you have to say. However, when someone harbors negative feelings towards you, even if they try to hide it, that warmth is replaced with a mechanical or distant approach. Take note of the way they greet you or respond to your attempts at conversation. Are their smiles polite but hollow? Is their laughter forced, not quite reaching their eyes? These are signs that the connection you're hoping for may not be mutual. When someone truly likes you, there's a natural vibrancy to the interaction, a back and forth exchange of energy that feels fluid and effortless. But when the enthusiasm is lacking, you might find yourself feeling as though you're carrying the weight of the conversation. Another key indicator is how often they initiate contact. People who enjoy your presence won't just respond to your messages or phone calls, they'll reach out on their own. They'll ask you how your day went or suggest meeting up for a casual hangout. But if you find that you're always the one initiating, they rarely, if ever, take the first step, it might be a sign that their interest is not genuine. Furthermore, their body language can reveal a lot, even when their words don't. Subtle cues like avoiding eye contact, leaning away, or crossing their arms can indicate discomfort or a desire to distance themselves emotionally. They may stand a little too far from you during conversations or find excuses to look at their phone or other distractions, indicating they are disengaged. While these gestures may seem small, they reflect a deeper, unspoken truth. They're not as invested in the relationship as you are. What's particularly challenging about this behavior is that it can leave you second-guessing yourself. You may wonder if you're overanalyzing things, or if they're just having a bad day. But over time, the consistent lack of genuine enthusiasm becomes hard to ignore. It's like receiving a gift wrapped in beautiful paper, only to find that the box inside is empty. On the surface, everything appears normal, but deep down, You sense that something essential is missing. This lack of enthusiasm might not always be overt. Sometimes, people are very skilled at maintaining a polite facade. They may smile at the right moments, laugh at your jokes, and even participate in conversations. But pay attention to the tone and texture of their interactions. Do they seem invested in what you're saying? Do they ask thoughtful questions or share meaningful insights? Or do their responses feel obligatory, like they're simply going through the motions? True enthusiasm is impossible to fake in the long term. If someone doesn't like you, their disinterest will eventually seep through the cracks of their polite exterior. Lastly, consider how they act when they're around others. If you notice that they seem more animated, talkative, or engaged with other people, but their energy drops significantly when they're interacting with you, that's a telling sign. The comparison reveals that the issue isn't a general lack of enthusiasm, it's specific to their interactions with you. This discrepancy can feel disheartening, but it's a clear indicator that something is off in the dynamic between the two of you. In the end, the absence of genuine enthusiasm is more than just a lack of excitement. It's a subtle form of emotional distancing, a quiet withdrawal that speaks louder than words ever could. It's not that they dislike you in a hostile, aggressive way, but rather, they're simply not invested in you on a deeper level. Recognizing this early on can save you from expending energy on a relationship that may never grow into something truly meaningful. Sign 2. They only reach out when they need something. Another significant and often painful sign that someone doesn't like you, but hides it, is when they only contact you when they need something from you. This is one of the clearest indicators that your relationship is transactional, rather than built on mutual care and respect. In healthy relationships, whether they're friendships, family ties, or romantic partnerships, there's a natural give and take. People who value you will reach out to connect simply because they enjoy your company or care about your well-being. But when someone consistently contacts you only when they have a favor to ask, it's a strong sign that their connection with you is based on convenience rather than genuine interest. At first, this behavior might seem harmless. After all, it's normal to ask friends or acquaintances for help from time to time. However, if you start to notice a pattern where this person only reaches out during times of need and then disappears once they've gotten what they want, it becomes clear that their interest in you is conditional. They may send you friendly messages or ask how you're doing, but those gestures are often just a prelude to a request. The moment you fulfill their need, whether it's helping them with a task, offering advice, or lending a hand, the conversation quickly ends, and they retreat back into silence until the next time they need something. This kind of behavior can leave you feeling used and undervalued. You may start to realize that your interactions with this person lack depth and sincerity. They aren't interested in your thoughts, feelings, or experiences unless those things somehow serve their immediate needs. When someone truly values you, They invest in the relationship beyond what they can gain from you. They check in just to see how you're doing, share experiences, and build a connection that's not based solely on favors or convenience. Moreover, people who only reach out when they need something often show little to no appreciation for your help. After you've assisted them, they might offer a brief thank you but won't follow up with any real gratitude or acknowledgement of the effort you put in. They may not even remember to return the favor or offer help in your times of need. This one-sided dynamic can be emotionally draining, as you're left feeling like a tool rather than a valued individual. Over time, this behavior erodes trust and respect. You start to anticipate their messages with a sense of dread, knowing that each interaction will be transactional. This can lead to feelings of resentment, especially if you're someone who values reciprocal relationships. True friends and loved ones don't see you as a resource to tap into when they need something. They see you as a person worth investing in, whether they need help or not. One of the most difficult aspects of this dynamic is that it's easy to rationalize. You might tell yourself that they're just busy, or that they didn't realize they were asking for too much. But when this pattern repeats itself over and over again, it becomes impossible to ignore. Their actions reveal their true priorities, and unfortunately, those priorities don't include nurturing a meaningful relationship with you. In recognizing this sign, it's important to set boundaries. Understand that you are not obligated to constantly fulfill their needs, especially when they offer little in return. Protect your emotional energy by recognizing when a relationship is no longer serving you in a healthy or balanced way. By doing so, you open the door for more authentic and reciprocal relationships, where both parties value each other equally. Sign 3. Subtle or passive-aggressive comments. Passive-aggressive behavior is a classic, yet often overlooked, method that people use when they harbor negative feelings towards someone but are unwilling, or unable, to express those feelings directly. It's a way of communicating hostility in an indirect or covert manner, allowing the person to mask their true emotions under the guise of humor, sarcasm, or politeness. Passive-aggressive comments may seem harmless or even playful on the surface, but underneath, they carry an unmistakable sting. These comments often come in the form of backhanded compliments or ambiguous statements that leave you wondering if the person is trying to insult you or genuinely praise you. For instance, they might say something like, "You're smarter than you look," or, "I didn't expect you to handle that so well." On the surface, these seem like compliments, but they're actually laced with hidden criticism. The underlying message might be that they don't think highly of you or didn't expect you to succeed. These remarks are delivered with a smile, a laugh, or in a seemingly light-hearted tone, but their real purpose is to undermine your confidence or subtly belittle your achievements. Another example could be a comment like, "It's nice that you don't care what people think," which might seem encouraging but actually implies that you should care, perhaps because your behavior, appearance, or decisions are somehow questionable in their eyes. Or they might say, "It's impressive how you manage to stay positive despite everything," which could subtly hint that they believe you have little reason to be optimistic. These remarks are designed to make you second-guess yourself, to plant seeds of doubt and insecurity, all while giving the speaker plausible deniability if you confront them about it. The genius of passive-aggressive comments is that they leave you feeling off balance. You may sense something is wrong, but when you try to address it, the person can easily deflect responsibility. They might say, "I was just joking," or "You're taking it too seriously," making you feel as if you're the one who's overreacting. This gaslighting tactic, where they make you question your own perception of reality, can be particularly damaging because it undermines your ability to trust your own feelings and interpretations. In many cases, passive aggression is rooted in unresolved resentment or envy. The person may be harboring ill feelings toward you, whether out of jealousy, competitiveness, or personal insecurities. They might feel threatened by your success or frustrated by their own inability to express their feelings openly. Instead of confronting these emotions head-on, they channel them into subtle jabs and veiled insults. This allows them to release their negative emotions without having to deal with the potential fallout of direct confrontation. The tricky thing about passive-aggressive comments is that they often come in waves. A single comment might be easy to dismiss, but over time, you start to notice a pattern. Each little jab, each sarcastic remark, starts to accumulate, leaving you feeling emotionally drained and unsure of where you stand with the person. It's as if they're chipping away at your self-esteem, one small remark at a time. And because the attacks are so subtle, it can take a while before you realize what's happening. Recognizing passive-aggressive behavior is the first step toward protecting yourself from its effects. Once you identify the pattern, you can choose how to respond. Some people prefer to confront the behavior directly, calling out the hidden hostility for what it is. Others might choose to disengage, limiting their interactions with the person to avoid further emotional harm. Either way, it's important to understand that these comments are more about the speaker's issues than about you. By maintaining your self-worth and refusing to let their negativity take root in your mind, you can rise above the toxicity. Sign 4. Exclusion from social activities. Exclusion from social activities is another subtle, yet powerful, sign that someone doesn't like you, but is avoiding an open confrontation. Social exclusion isn't always about overt rejection. It often manifests in quiet, passive ways, like not being invited to events, parties, or gatherings. This behavior can be particularly hurtful because it leaves you feeling sidelined and questioning your value in the group. At first, the exclusion may be so subtle that it's easy to brush off. You might not get invited to a casual hangout or a last-minute gathering, but the person or group provides seemingly reasonable explanations. "We thought you were busy," or "It was such a last-minute thing, I didn't think to ask." While these excuses might sound plausible, over time, the pattern becomes more noticeable. You start to realize that you're consistently left out of group activities, even when mutual friends or acquaintances are included. The exclusion doesn't always have to be explicit. In some cases, they might not say outright that you're not invited, but you'll notice that plans are made in your absence. You may hear about events after they've happened, or see photos and posts on social media of gatherings you weren't told about. This subtle form of social distancing can be even more painful than outright rejection because it leaves you in a state of confusion. You might wonder what you did wrong or why you're being excluded, but because no one is openly addressing the issue, it's difficult to pinpoint the cause. In many cases, social exclusion is a form of passive conflict avoidance. The person doesn't want to have a direct conversation about why they're distancing themselves. So they use exclusion as a way to create emotional space. It's a non-confrontational method of signaling that they don't want you involved in their life in the same way they do with others. This can be particularly difficult to deal with because it's a slow, drawn-out process that leaves you feeling increasingly isolated without ever receiving a clear explanation. One of the most hurtful aspects of social exclusion is the emotional toll it takes on your sense of belonging. Humans are inherently social creatures. We thrive on connection and community. When you're excluded from social activities, it can trigger feelings of loneliness, rejection, and self-doubt. You may start to question your self-worth, wondering why you aren't being included and whether you're somehow not good enough to be part of the group. This emotional fallout can be particularly damaging if the exclusion happens in a close-knit social circle where you previously felt welcomed and valued. The reasons behind social exclusion can vary. In some cases, the person excluding you may feel insecure or threatened by your presence. They might worry that you'll outshine them in some way, or that your inclusion will shift the dynamics of the group. In other instances, it might be the result of unresolved personal conflicts or misunderstandings that they don't want to address. Whatever the reason, the exclusion is a clear indicator that the relationship has become strained. If you notice that someone consistently excludes you from social activities, it's important to evaluate the situation with a clear mind. Try not to immediately internalize the rejection as a reflection of your worth. Instead, consider whether this person or group truly values you, or if they're keeping you at arm's length for their own reasons. If the exclusion is part of a larger pattern of disrespect or emotional distance, it may be time to reassess the relationship and consider whether it's worth maintaining. While social exclusion can be painful, it also provides an opportunity for growth. It forces you to evaluate your relationships and recognize which ones are built on mutual respect and care, and which ones are not. In the long run, removing yourself from relationships where you're consistently undervalued or excluded can create space for new, healthier connections to form. Sign 5. Short, dismissive responses in conversations. One of the clearest signs that someone doesn't like you, but is attempting to maintain a veneer of politeness, is when they give you short, dismissive responses during conversations. Human connection thrives on communication, and when someone values your presence, they will engage with you meaningfully. They'll ask follow-up questions, share their thoughts, and the conversation will flow with a natural rhythm. In contrast, when someone is uninterested or holds negative feelings toward you, they often keep their responses minimal and disengaged. Instead of contributing to a dynamic dialogue, they offer brief answers like yes, no, or maybe, without elaborating. For example, if you ask how their day was, they might respond with something like, "It was fine," and not offer any details. They avoid sharing anything personal or making an effort to deepen the conversation. This lack of willingness to elaborate or engage can feel like hitting a wall, where you're left struggling to find ways to keep the dialogue alive. Such dismissive responses are often intentional, even though they may appear subtle. The person giving them is communicating that they're not interested in having a conversation with you but don't want to appear overtly rude. This way, they minimize their interaction with you while still maintaining a semblance of politeness. You might notice that they rarely initiate conversations themselves or keep them as brief as possible when they do. The key to understanding this sign is not just the brevity of their responses, but the lack of engagement that accompanies them. Someone who genuinely enjoys talking with you will ask questions, offer insights, and express genuine curiosity about your life or thoughts. Even if they're tired or busy, they'll still show a level of interest in maintaining the connection. But when someone dislikes you, their goal is to end the interaction as quickly as possible without directly showing their disinterest. This dynamic can be incredibly frustrating, especially if you value meaningful interactions. You might find yourself working hard to keep the conversation going, asking more questions or trying to engage with them on various topics, only to be met with vague, disinterested responses. Over time, this one-sided effort can leave you feeling emotionally drained and undervalued. It becomes clear that the relationship isn't reciprocal. While you're investing time and energy into communication, the other person is doing the bare minimum to avoid confrontation. In these situations, it's important to recognize that the issue lies with them, not you. Their dismissiveness is a reflection of their feelings or discomfort, not a statement about your worth. Instead of continuously trying to bridge the gap, it may be more helpful to take a step back and reassess whether the relationship is worth pursuing. By acknowledging their lack of interest, you can free yourself from the frustration of chasing after a connection that isn't being reciprocated. Sign 6. They avoid physical contact or close proximity. Body language is an essential element of human interaction, and physical gestures often communicate far more than words. When someone likes you or enjoys your company, they naturally engage in subtle forms of physical contact, like a pat on the shoulder, a handshake, or standing close during a conversation. These gestures create a sense of warmth, trust, and connection. On the flip side, when someone dislikes you, their body language will often reflect their discomfort or disinterest. One of the most noticeable signs is that they will avoid physical contact or try to maintain physical distance. If you pay attention, you'll notice these subtle cues. They might lean away when you're speaking, keep their arms crossed, or stand farther away than others in group settings. Even when it's socially customary to engage in brief physical contact, like shaking hands, hugging, or even sitting next to you, they may go out of their way to avoid it. For example, they might give a half-hearted handshake, or their body may stiffen if you attempt a friendly hug. If they do engage in physical contact, it may feel cold or mechanical, devoid of the warmth that usually accompanies these gestures. The avoidance of physical proximity is not just about personal space, it's a nonverbal cue that signals emotional distance as well. Physical closeness often reflects comfort and trust in relationships, so when someone consistently avoids being near you, it's likely they're uncomfortable with you on a deeper level. This lack of closeness could be due to a variety of reasons. They might feel threatened, dislike your energy, or simply not want to form any deeper connection with you. Either way, their actions speak volumes, even when their words might be polite or neutral. It's important to note that this behavior isn't limited to overtly hostile gestures. It can be subtle, such as someone choosing to sit on the opposite side of the room during a meeting or standing just far enough away in a group conversation that they aren't fully engaged with you. These physical boundaries create an invisible wall between you, signaling that they are not interested in being emotionally or socially close. In situations where physical affection plays a significant role, such as in friendships or familial relationships, the avoidance of physical contact can feel particularly hurtful. If you're someone who expresses care through physical touch, such as hugs, pats on the back, or even casual closeness, their rejection of these gestures can leave you feeling rejected on a deeper level. It's not just that they don't want to touch you, it's that they're creating an emotional barrier as well. Understanding this sign requires being attuned to the subtleties of body language. Often, people avoid physical contact without saying a word about their true feelings. Their body speaks for them. If you find that someone is consistently avoiding physical proximity, it may be worth considering why this distance exists and whether it reflects a deeper issue in the relationship. Accepting their discomfort and maintaining your own emotional distance may be the healthiest response, as continuing to seek out closeness from someone who's clearly resistant to it can lead to more frustration and hurt. Sign 7. They rarely make time for you. Time is one of the most valuable commodities in any relationship, and when someone genuinely cares about you, they will make an effort to spend time with you. Whether it's meeting up for coffee, engaging in regular conversations, or simply making room in their schedule for you, their investment of time is a clear indicator of their interest. However, When someone doesn't like you but is trying to maintain a superficial level of friendliness, one of the most telling signs is that they rarely, if ever, make time for you. You may notice that every time you try to make plans with them, they're conveniently too busy or have a packed schedule. While occasional busyness is normal for anyone, a repeated pattern of being unavailable is often a signal that they're not prioritizing the relationship. They might cancel plans at the last minute, give vague reasons for their unavailability, or simply avoid committing to any future engagements. When someone values you, they'll make time, even if it's just for a brief conversation or a spontaneous meetup. They'll show enthusiasm for spending time together and won't make excuses for why they can't see you. In contrast, someone who isn't interested in maintaining a deeper connection will often make themselves unavailable or only agree to meet on their terms. When they do show up, they might seem distracted, disinterested, or eager to leave. This lack of effort can be especially disheartening if you're someone who values spending quality time with those you care about. The imbalance becomes clear when you realize that you're always the one initiating plans or accommodating their schedule, while they make little effort to reciprocate. Over time, this dynamic can leave you feeling undervalued, as if your time and presence aren't important to them. The truth is, when someone genuinely cares about you, they will make time for you, no matter how busy their life may be. People prioritize what matters to them, and if you're consistently finding yourself on the receiving end of excuses, it's a clear sign that the relationship isn't as important to them as it may be to you. Recognizing this pattern allows you to reassess the relationship and decide whether it's worth continuing to invest your time and energy in someone who doesn't seem willing to do the same.